Okay, folks, now I just finished watching Divorce Sistas episode 7 because I'm like, yeah, this week, let me go ahead and get that review out early. And, holy crap, this was a great episode. I definitely say it was more, low key than episode 6, but man, the title Brutal Honesty definitely encapsulate what this episode was, really about. The fact that the standoff scene between Naomi and the girls, this was essentially the equivalent of when Danny read the girls at the end of season. Was it at the end of season 5 or 6? I can't remember. You know, the one after the whole, she almost killed Jonah and then the girls went over there to check on her and then she opted to read the group. And yeah, that's essentially what happened here with Naomi. But I honestly think my favorite scene was the back and forth between Franklin and Pastor Jeff at the hospital. Yeah, that was pretty intense. But overall, I gotta say, I'm going to give this episode a 10 out of 10 because I really enjoyed it. And I believe next week, episode 8 is the mid-season finale because I think it was confirmed that, hey, it's 8 episodes and then there's another 8, so it's 16 episodes total for season 1. But yeah, I had to get this out quick because this episode to me demanded priority over last night's episode of Sistas because, well, that episode was kind of meh. Hey, that's a separate review. And I did a live stream last night, so you know how I feel about it. But before moving forward into the actual review, please take a moment to hit like and subscribe. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. And let's dive in, folks. So, we pretty much pick up where we left off with the Vaughn situation. Him allegedly, self-deleting over the phone. And Jeff gets Myron to call the sheriff. That way they can somehow try to track Vaughn's phone because they don't know where in the world he is. All they heard was the gunshot. And from there, it's like, okay, now what? And while all this is happening, Bridget is losing it. You got Rashida and Geneva trying to calm her down. So Rashida, I love how this scene showcased the level-headedness needed for a pastor and first lady because, it's their church and they're there to educate and heal and things like that. So I love how in the moment of crisis, you have those who are just flabbergasted, don't know what to do, like what's his name, Calvin in the background. Geneva's there to comfort, Bridget. Bridget is rightfully freaking out, but then you got the level-headed ones. Like, for example, you have Rashida asking, okay, so have there been any signs in the past of him, showing some sort of depression or possibly talking about not being able to take a living anymore? And Bridget's like, no, not at all, not at all. And then that's when Jeff comes in and goes so far as to say, after Rashida told him, hey, there's been no signs of Vaughn having any sort of depression like this in the past. And then that's when Jeff is like, well, the sheriff says they can try to track his phone. But if nothing else, we don't know exactly what happened. We heard the gunshot, but that's it. And if anything, this could possibly be some sort of cry for help. Bridget's like, but cry for help? What are you talking about, Pastor? Well, think about it. We heard the gun go off. Yeah, of course we did. We all were here. And then what? What do you mean? The call ended, right? Yeah. Did you hit end? No. Wait a minute. He must have hit end. Exactly. So how in the world would a dead person be able to hang up? I gotta admit, this was some clever ass writing. It's a little thing to follow up on a huge cliffhanger ending. And I can't be mad, Jeremy, wouldn't you dock points or something because the solution was so simple? No, because Bridget was pissed off for the audience. It's like Vaughn did all these theatrics and stuff, and at the end of the day, it was a stunt. We later find out that he's at his cousin's house. He had pointed the gun out of his window to, fire off the gun, and then he hung up. So Bridget is really like that. Let me watch my mouth in church. If he's alive, I might have to kill him myself. Pastor, you better pray for me. So that was it. And Calvin puts two and two together. It's like, oh, he probably pulled this stunt so I wouldn't press charges against him. And that was quite the opening of the episode. TP, I tip my hat to you. That was pretty good stuff. And I love how the scene was acted out too. Now from there we go over to Hakeem, right? That's his name. Getting freaky with Naomi, but then he demands she stop because basically she's being rough with him, taking it out on him like he was his, her ex-husband. But that's when we switch the conversation over to her being serious, dead serious, about taking Franklin out. So that's when he's like, wait, you can't mean that, right? You probably in your feelings. No, I want him and his wife gone. But then after revealing Franklin's identity and who he is, I mean, Hakeem automatically knew, wait, you mean that one dude who's, oh, no, this is way too high profile for a murder. And then she's like, fine, I'll give you $500K per head. Where are you going to get that kind of money from without raising suspicion? I have $1 million in a safety deposit box in the bank. Well, let me see it. I'm not going to just let you see it. Get the job done first. Well, let me call my boys. No, this is something you got to arrange yourself. Like, I don't want anybody else involved in this. So essentially, she agrees to like, look, I'll show you the money and I'll give you $10K up front. And rightfully so, she's wary about giving this dude a lot of money because how does she know he won't dip on her? But the thing is, he's hesitant due to the fact that in terms of making people disappear, he's never gotten his hands dirty like this. So at this point, that's why he's hesitant to do it. I mean, if you watch Beyond the Gates, this is giving me vibes to the whole Martin situation where you got Bill and Vernon going at it. And Bill calls out Vernon for never getting his own hands dirty. He always has people like Bill do it for him. So, yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. Now, yeah, it seems to me that she's definitely adamant on killing her ex-husband and his wife. And I'm just thinking, Naomi, get over it. Ugh. But then that leads to, what we see later at the hospital. Yikes. Oh, boy. So we go back to the church, and Tiffany shows up in Rashida's office and is, surprised to see Geneva there. And she calls her out for avoiding her, which again, Geneva acts like, I'm not avoiding you. But then Tiffany's like, I've messaged you like 5 or 6 times and you haven't texted at all today. But then Geneva just deflects saying that, oh, I've been busy and whatnot. And then she tries to get to the root of the issue. Like, Geneva, what's wrong? It's like all of a sudden you're distant, like you don't want to be in the same room as me. What's going on? Is it about what? The pretty lady at the church or something? And then that's when she mentions the whole thing about following her and then recording a conversation with her phone, an old trick she used to do in college, basically confirming if she would have called William after she had left the yoga studio. Now, she did record the woman on the phone with someone, but she has no idea who it was. So apparently at the PTA meeting later tonight, that's when they should all meet up, and then she'll basically kind of gauge the situation and see how things unfold from there. And then that's when Rashida pops in and gives Tiff the update about the Vaughn situation. And apparently Bridget has always dated younger men. And it's funny because Rashida claps back at Geneva like, well, hey, you've dated a couple of younger ones in your time before William. But then they also talk about Tiff as well, Tiff and the whole Javon situation. And Geneva has the nerve to tell Tiff, well, what you think about, you're not thinking about sleeping with him, are you? Well, maybe. Well, I think you should wait at least a year or more if it gets that far. I'm just like, this woman she is something else. I mean, there was a lot of friction in regards to these two in this episode. And from there, Bridget comes in. And as I mentioned before, gives the update to the girls about Vaughn at his cousin's house and shot out the window. And she's done with him this time. So similar to Karen, apparently her and Vaughn have broken up a bunch of times. Or more specifically, Bridget has broken up with Vaughn and or kicked him out of her home a bunch of times. But they always end up back together for one reason or another. So from there, they talk about the Naomi situation, and Bridget's like, wait, do I really got to go? Yes. After everything I just went through? Come on, Bridget, let's go. She's like, hey, well, we can all ride together. But Geneva says, no, I can't. Actually, I got somewhere I need to go after we leave there. So I got to, drive separate. Tiff says the reason she doesn't want to ride with us all is because of me. And then that's where it's like, what's going on? Well, of course, Bridget wants to know. Rashida low-key already knows it has to do with Vaughn. And they try not to make a big deal out of it. Geneva is deflective, but then, she ends up driving by herself. Now, we go over to Pastor Jeff's office, and Myra's in there, again, saying that he's sorry about everything in regards to the phone call. And you can tell he's being very intrusive, and Jeff kind of just doesn't want to have anything to do with him at this moment. And mentions the whole situation about Vaughn, him being alive, being a miracle. Like, yeah, God works miracles. And you and your wife, seem to be on good terms after what happened last night. You have a good night. We had a rough patch. Yeah, I know you remember. I remember you telling me about that. Yeah, hey, but we've gotten past that. And speaking of miracles, it's a miracle I'm still talking to you after you called me babe over the phone. I am so sorry. I did not mean to do that. I promise you it was a mistake. Go back to work. And then he mentions how he has to go to the hospital. Well, let me come with you. No, I'm going by myself. Which is interesting based off what happens later on in the episode, but we'll get to that momentarily. So, on the way to Naomi's house, Rashida's driving with Bridget in the front seat, Tiff in the back. And Rashida is pretty much deflecting Tiff's curiosity. Basically, Tiffany is asking Rashida if she knows anything about Geneva being upset with her for any reason. I don't know, Tiff, just asking Geneva, which is the same thing that Geneva would tell Tiffany whenever she would ask Geneva about, so what's, is there anything about Javon I should know? No. I mean, in regards to you two, well, hey, there's nothing. I mean, if you want to know something about Javon, you can ask him yourself. That's essentially what it is. So they're definitely keeping her in the dark. So I guess at this point, we could definitely put Tiffany kind of in the category of Sabrina. Naomi is no doubt the Danny of the group. Tiffany is the Sabrina of the group. Given the fact that Bridget has this tendency to date below, I would say, well, not just below in terms of her age, but in terms of like maturity. But, for someone who's good in the bed and whatnot, Bridget low-key could fit into the Karen category. So I guess from there, Geneva would be the Andy. But Rashida, I don't know if I see her as a Fatima. But then again, I don't know. So, So as they're talking, and apparently there's this thing where Bridget never wants the conversation to drift to her because she knows her girl's going to call her out for her poor dating choices. Particularly, it's not the issue of dating younger, which even Rashida mentions earlier to Geneva and Tiffany, that dating younger, there's no issue with it because men do it all the time. But it's just a matter of choice in terms of maturity and just different things like that, which could dictate whether or not a relationship will go in a positive or negative direction, specifically when talking about, someone, like I said, maturity. Do you all have like the same beliefs? Just things like that. So from there, they go over. Oh, actually, Tiffany even brings up the fact, like, look, there's all this tension between us, and I don't know if I can keep, Anika while her and William go on that trip to Italy. And Rashida quickly volunteers, and even Bridget. So I think that's cool because they're all aunties to Nika. I think that's pretty great. It reminds me of like Karen appointing Sabrina and Danny as aunties, or not aunties, godmothers. Yeah, and then Auntie Andy. So after that, we go over to Jeff at the hospital visiting Franklin. And this was an intense scene. So his wife is sedated, and he makes it clear, like, I know why you're here. It's about the money. I ain't changed my mind. But Jeff reassures him, like, look, I'm not here for any sort of money or to see if you change your mind. I'm just here because it's, as a man of God, it's the right thing to do, for prayer and, condolences. That's what I'm here for. But the thing is, Franklin makes it clear that he has a plan to get back at Naomi. But the thing is, given that Rashida is a friend of Naomi, because like, why was she even there? And look, I still stand on Team Franklin in the sense of Naomi should not, The whole thing should have been nipped in the bud before it escalated to the point it did. Now, I'm not condoning Franklin for getting on that stage and making an ass out of himself, but it's just the fact that Rashida, that whole thing, like, you knew it would be a mess. So, like, why even bother bringing Naomi there? Or when she came in that drunk state, get her the hell out, for real. But still, so he makes it clear that essentially it's collateral damage and guilt by association due to what happened to his wife because of Naomi's actions and being a friend. Rashida's going down, and hey, proximity, my friend. When a bomb goes off, collateral damage, everybody in proximity gets blown up. I'm coming after you too. And it's crazy because I wish Rashida could have been there in that moment to see how Jeff had her back, because yeah, she was upset when Jeff didn't say or do anything at the hospital when Franklin called her out of her name. But in the sense of threatening his wife, Jeff won't play no games. Like, don't let the fact that I'm a child of God fool you, because he starts quoting scripture and stuff like that about being wrathful. And essentially these two, hey, the bread broken between them, yeah, that's done. That's over and done with. So essentially, Franklin makes it clear, like, essentially it's on now. It's on. So he, Jeff leaves, and then Myron is like, is everything okay? And Jeff's like, let's go. So I wonder what happened that would have changed Jeff's mind about Myron coming with him to the hospital, considering that before he didn't want him to go with him. So that must have happened off screen. Now, they're in the car, and Jeff calls Rashida, and she mentions how she's with the girls, like, hey, get on the phone. You know this is illegal, right? I like that little nod to the fact that, being on the phone while driving versus, just having a car phone or having speaker on. But in any case, he gives her the rundown about the fact that Franklin is, Franklin ain't playing this time. I think this is more than just a back and forth kind of lawsuit situation. And he says he's going after Naomi, and he's going after you too. What, me? What's going on? Because you're friends with her. And, well, we're on our way to check on her right now. Look. I don't want you going over there. And I love how the characters address this. Jeff literally said, have Naomi come over to our house. I don't want you going over there. Things could get bad. So they get off the phone, and he's like, look, I'll be there in like 10 minutes. Don't go in the house without me, before I get there. So that's when everybody's on the way. And Rashida gives a brief rundown of what's going on to the girls, and they're confused about this. So they all arrive at the same time. But Geneva actually gets there first, and Hakeem is laying there, is just chowing down on the sandwich without his clothes on, and Geneva's like, wait, what the hell? And then that's when Naomi comes down in her dominatrix attire and tells this man to get dressed and leave. And then Geneva tells her to go upstairs and change herself, since the girls will be there in about 10 minutes. And Naomi goes upstairs, gets in bed, and, is getting high and whatnot. But then Geneva just has to sit down to try to get her to come to her senses about, I can't help you if you keep acting crazy. So you need to go in there, take a shower, change your clothes, do whatever, because this ain't it. So from there, everybody arrives outside. This reminded me of that episode of Zatima season 3 where everybody shows up on the front line the same day of Jeremiah attacking Fatima. It reminded me of that. So Franklin gives them the rundown about Jeff gives them the rundown about Franklin not playing games, and, they got to come up with a, strategy in order to stay safe, because this is getting intense. And he and Myron wait outside as the girls go in. And Naomi comes down, and this was mentioned earlier in the episode from, I believe, Tiff and Geneva to Rashida about Naomi being upset with her for not like checking on her. But let's not forget everything Rashida went through last night and this morning. But yeah, Naomi comes down, and this is where the room reading begins. She mentions how she's not upset, but she doesn't fail to mention how Rashida opted to go to the hospital as opposed to checking on her. And let's be real, she was going to go check on Naomi, but Jeff was like, no, you're not, because look, the woman she assaulted was at our church, and how is that going to look for the first lady to go check on the person who committed the violent act as opposed to the victim? So she mentioned how she needed to process everything because, look, stuff got real, okay? And I need to process what went down before I could check on you. And I love how Rashida don't take crap from anyone. She doesn't. And that's when Naomi started going in on her. Simply going to the point of just going in on Rashida and by extension Jeff for the fact of everything that went down between you and Frank, me and my ex-husband. It even got to the point where I got an STI from him cheating and he begged me not to leave him. And then you told us to come to your church and whatnot, and that would fix things. And that's when Rashida says, like, look, the thing is, it isn't an instant fix. It takes faith and, more importantly, work from both parties. And both of you, or neither of you, were willing to put in the work. So she's even though she didn't say this, it was essentially a get the F out of here with this, Naomi, due to the fact that what you're not going to do is come at me when I was trying to help. And on top of that, you need to stop letting Franklin drag you down. And that's when Bridget and Geneva try to jump in and talk some sense into her due to the fact that you got the money, you got this big house, you got all this stuff. Don't let Franklin drag you down. You need to move on. I love how they speak for the audience because ever since like the first episode, fans have been saying, chick, you got 37 mil. Forget about this guy. Let it go. And that's when she starts going in on Bridget about how, oh, what would you know about a nice house, that little one you got in? She's like, nah, you know what? I'm about to leave. So Bridget is the sensitive one out of the group. But the thing is, the girls, and this isn't the first time this happened. I think this occurred the last time all the girls were here to talk with Naomi. Naomi talks smack and the other girls clap back. Bridget isn't about that. And the girls just like, no, stay, speak your mind. It's like, look, and Bridget is one of those like quiet ones. Like you don't want to mess with her because she'll show up and show out. Like just because she isn't as loud as Naomi or as confident as, Rashida or Geneva, that doesn't mean she isn't capable of, throwing hands and whatnot. But yeah, she's about to go off. And that's when Rashida basically says, listen, with all the mess between you and Franklin, you're blessed considering everything you got from that divorce. But at this rate, you are going to lose everything. The house, you're going to lose all that stuff before you eventually come to your senses. And that's when Naomi's like, okay, are you like Kevin Hart at one special? Are you done? Are you done? Well, let me tell you a little bit about yourselves. And then she pretty much reads the room from Tiffany being desperate for love. Like, the fact that you just want to marry this man you met last night. And Geneva was in the corner rolling her eyes. Then she goes over to Bridget for essentially robbing the cradle. Then she talks about Geneva. Hey, me and you were day one girls back in the whole days. Remember that? Oh, yeah, 5-inch will. It ain't doing it for you anymore, is it? Because, you haven't been having sex in a while, huh? And the only reason you don't want to get a divorce is due to the fact that you need that 2-income household. And I'm just like, dang, that's telling. She's a partner at the firm but needs a 2-income household. So from there, she goes over to Rashida. And this was just messed up. I hated this. You could tell that she was getting back at Rashida because A, she didn't come to visit her first after the coffee incident. B, the whole inviting her to church thing didn't work to save her marriage. This was just her being a hater, and I didn't like that. So she pulls up the fact that Myron is always on the phone talking about how much he loves the pastor and whatnot. And Rashida's like, what are you talking about? And this chick goes so far as to pull up the cameras around her house, pull up the footage on the television. And it shows Myron on the phone talking to some mystery person about, this is driving me crazy. I can't take it anymore. About the fact that, I love him so much. And look, based on the entire conversation, except for one key line, it seems like this is a one-sided thing where Myron is into the pastor. Is like, I know he's into me. I just know it. And the fact that, he comes into church holding hands with her to make me jealous and everything like that. And Look, I got to get off the phone because he's looking at me right now, and he doesn't like when I'm on the phone with someone when he doesn't know who I'm talking to. And then that's like, wait, what? So I don't know what this means. And keep in mind now, Tyler has done this a couple of times with this show already, where we have a dramatic cliffhanger, but then the conclusion of the cliffhanger at the beginning of the next episode is not what it seems to be. I mean, like last week, Vaughn shot himself. No, he didn't. He did that for attention. Or that young girl says that she has been sleeping with the pastor. No, it was just a lie. So in this situation, that footage is live footage, but him going so far as say like, oh, he doesn't like when I'm on the phone with someone he doesn't know who I'm talking to. That could just be him, because based off what we've seen thus far, everything involving Myron seems to be one-sided when it comes to Pastor Jeff. Now, it does seem that the pastor semi-confides in him whenever he and his wife are going through something, but I don't know. I'm not convinced that Jeff and Myron have something going on. But like I said earlier, what changed Jeff's mind that allowed Myron to go to the hospital with him? Maybe because he had time to kind of cool off from the whole being called babe, and then the situation with Vaughn, he was able to kind of move past that, and he's like, you know what, fine, if you want to come along, that kind of thing. But yeah, overall, solid episode. Solid. And it really just shows the different dynamics within this group of women as we learn more each and every week. But hey, like I said, solid 10 out of 10. Very, very interested to see what the fallout or the nuclear fallout between Franklin and Naomi is going to be once the smoke clears. But man, I got a feeling that somebody's not coming out of this season alive. So with that being said, like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts on the episode in the comment section below.